Hey everyone, welcome back for Little Jays Talk. Today we're going to be recapping the Detroit Tigers Toronto Blue Jays game. Game number 6 of spring training. As most of you will know by now, there is a split squad game going on, so they're playing again this evening, and we'll see Anthony Santander make his long-awaited Blue Jays debut. But yeah, just real quick, I wanted to go over some things that I saw today. I only watched the first, let me have a quick look here. When did Jeff Hoffman pitch? Looks like the 6th inning, so that was kind of when I tuned out. I bailed to work out, but I did kind of keep half an eye on it. But the first 6 innings I watched pretty steady, so most of my commentary will be towards the start of the game. On the hitting side of things, not much to write home about from Bo Bichette. 2 at-bats, 2 Ks. Who cares? He's been looking pretty good. His at-bats have been good. He was, I think he worked a full count and all that. He looks ready to go for the regular season. So great to see out of Bo. Dalton Varsho came in first inning, hit a nice home run. Good to see him back. More just a sign that he's healthy. It was good to see him taking game at-bats. And obviously the shoulder can't be hurting him too bad if he's hitting home runs with it. So, good to see out of Dalton Varsho. I don't really mind if he needs to take a couple weeks or even a month to get ready defensively with that throwing shoulder. But even just having him there for pinch running, pinch hitting, maybe if he keeps a little bit of pop in his bat, he can still be a valuable piece even if he's not playing every day in center field right off the hop. Vladdy Jr. I think I posted on Twitter there that it said his home run was 394 feet as it was sailing over a 400-foot sign on the fence. That thing was launched to dead center. So if you didn't watch the game, Dalton Varsho and Vladdy Jr. went back-to-back in the first inning there. 2 nice pieces of hitting, and it's just more good vibes for the team, really. George Springer looked, really comfortable in left field. Not really a surprise as a guy who started as a center fielder, made a seamless transition to right. I feel like he can play any of the 3 positions pretty easily. Not too concerned with George at all. And then offensively, I don't know if this is just a super small sample size or if this is, Popkins showing up in Springer, but Springer is really, you can really tell he's actively trying to pull the ball. He's doing a really good job of getting out in front of pitches and ripping them to left field, and that's something that he just simply wasn't doing last year. So super small sample size, it's spring, whatever you want to say, but it's still a good sign because it was things that he wasn't necessarily doing last year. He was behind a lot of velocity, and it looks like he's kind of cheating a bit to get out in front of the ball early on in this spring at least. Andres Gimenez, 1 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. Still liking what I'm seeing there, and to me, whether you're a number 9 hitter, number 1 hitter, number 2 hitter, it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't mind seeing Gimenez in one of those 3 spots. If he's batting 9th, he's kind of like your second leadoff hitter once the game's underway. And just the way that he handles the bat, his speed on the bases, he can be a difference maker when he's on. So, I'm looking forward to seeing more at-bats out of him because he's something that we don't necessarily have a lot of in the everyday lineup. I know we do have Baroa and we do have some like Jonathan Clase and that we do have some speedsters, but in the everyday lineup, we don't have a lot of what Gimenez brings to the base pass in terms of true speed and true base stealing ability. So it's nice to see. Kirky still having great at-bats. Again, I don't care about the results necessarily, but he's taking close pitches. He's putting good swings on the ball. Nothing concerning out of Kirk at all. Ernie Clement looking like your everyday third baseman. He's doing absolutely nothing to let go of that job. I believe the Blue Jays haven't penciled him regardless, but he's playing fine defensively. He looks good at the plate. He's doing the high contact thing that he's always does. And I think he's going to be a real valuable piece for us this year. And Nathan Lucas, he's probably in line to be the 4th outfielder, if I had to guess. He looks fine, same type of deal, like nothing concerning. I don't read anything into batting averages and that sort of thing in spring training because, bloop singles skew that, line drive outs skew that. It's more just about seeing who's hitting the ball hard and all that. And, I think Lucas struck out once that I can remember. But he takes good swings and he looks like a professional ball player, so I'd have no issues with him being the 4th outfielder at all. And Miles Straw is another guy that's pushing for a bench spot. Again, it all depends on how the bench shapes out in the end and how healthy Dalton Varsho is. But if Varsho is unable to play defensively, Miles Straw might sneak his way onto the bench and steal one of those bench spots as a defensive replacement. But that will depend on how the overall bench looks, of course. On the pitching side of things, Chris Bassett looked lights out. Again, I mentioned this in a previous video. I don't know why the guys are so much more ramped up this spring than they seem to be in past years. Oftentimes you'll see guys like Chris Bassett, Kevin Gausman, Max Scherzers, those types of guys. They're out there throwing 88, 89 miles an hour, and you're kind of like, oh, what's going on there? And, it takes a few spring training games before they start to ramp up closer to the season. And sometimes they don't even hit their regular season velocities by the end of spring. And Bassett was out, right very first inning, looked like he was in midseason form. So it's a little bit odd to see. Again, for the 1,000th time, we're not going to read too much into the results, but he did go 2 2/3, 4 strikeouts, 1 hit. He was all around the zone. He was mixing in all of his pitches, and he looked great. Yariel Rodriguez, on the other hand, kind of blew up again. He went 1 2/3 for 4 earned runs. I don't care about the earned runs. It was more the walks and how wild he was with his fastball that concerned me. And I know some people will push back and say, he's slider dominant. That's what he's going to be in the bullpen anyways. But if you can't locate your fastball, you don't have anything. If you think about guys, like Mark Burley or Marco Estrada or whoever it is, if you can't locate your fastball, actually a good example would be Kevin Gausman last year. If your velocity isn't great and you're not locating the fastball and they can sit on your secondary stuff, like in Gausman's case last year, some of the teams were just looking out for his splitter and none of them, like they weren't chasing it at all. That's because they don't respect the fastball. If they're just sitting splitter, it's really easy to lay off of it. And in Wyrod's case, he can throw, 96, 97, I think he touched 98, but if they're not worried about it being a strike, like the biggest concern they have with his fastball is it going to hit them in the face or not? And that was the case today. Like, he was up at guys' mouths. He was missing the zone by 8 inches. Like, if your fastball isn't a competitive pitch, they can basically just disregard it and sit for the off-speed stuff. And it really limits how effective. I don't care how tight your slider is or, how well you throw it. If they're sitting slider, it's really easy for them to lay off of it if it's ducking off the plate or anything like that. So he's really... I would like to see him out there throwing 80% fastballs until he shows that he can actually put it into the strike zone. And it doesn't have to be pinpoint placement. It just has to be in for a strike so that they actually have to look out for it. His stuff is phenomenal. I like what I see out of Wyrod, but I'd really like to see a couple fastballs in the strike zone. And again, it's super early in spring. He'll have plenty of opportunity to dial that in. But stuff looks great. Needs to work on fastball location before we can really get excited about him being, a back-end contributor in this bullpen. Boyer looked all right, let up a couple runs. He looked so-so. No real comment on him. I don't think he'll factor in at all. Jeff Hoffman was nice to see. He hit a batter, but pitches were there. Everything looked fine. Just he's a guy where I just want to see him healthy to start the year. Dial the velocity up a little bit. Make sure his arm looks good, make sure he's all healthy, and then go from there. But I'm not worried about Jeff Hoffman. Tolhurst, I'm familiar with the name, but I've never really watched him pitch before. And I was a bit preoccupied while he was pitching, but I did check out a few pitches and saw some of the at-bats. And it looked like he was throwing 2 variations of a fastball. It looked like he had more of a sinker and a four-seam. And he was sitting 94, 95, 96 with both of them. And he might have even had a cutter or a really hard slider in there too. I'll have to go back and actually check what his pitch mix was. But I'm pretty sure I saw 3 variations of a fastball, changeup, curveball. There was lots of stuff in there. So he's actually a guy I'll be keeping an eye on. Like I say, I'm familiar with the name, but I'm not super familiar with him as a prospect or as a player, so I'll definitely do a little bit more digging into him because he looked all right. And judging that they gave him 3 innings, I actually never realized he was out there for 3. But like I said, I'm going to do more digging into him and just kind of get more familiar with him because I really liked the pitch mix, and it looked like he had some real kind of potential to help us out probably as soon as this year. So yeah, that's really all I got for this game. I'll probably check back in after the second game this afternoon, or tonight, I should say. Let me know what you guys think about what happened today. What are your observations? Are you concerned by anybody? Are you loving any of the players? Let me know what your thoughts are. And by all means, if you like the updates, be sure to subscribe and follow along. Okay, look forward to hearing from you guys. Bye-bye.